Hello and welcome back to Why This Film, the podcast where we find a movie from your childhood, we rewatch it, and we get together and we have a chat about it. I'm Emily Slade and welcome back.
You watched it so many times before and now you're gonna watch it again. But it's been so many years since you last saw it and now you show it to your friends and they're like, What?
What am I watching?
Why this film?
And I'm joined today by Monica. Hello.
Hello.
And her chosen movie is 1982's The Last Unicorn. The IMDb breakdown is: a brave unicorn and a magician fight an evil king who is obsessed with attempting to capture the world's unicorns. That's a fairly accurate
Yeah, I'd say so,
thing.
yeah.
IMDb sort of go up and down with their accuracies of their plot descriptions, but that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, I'd say so.
What is your relationship with this movie?
Okay, well, I first got this film when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
And basically, it was around the time where we'd moved house, and I was really young, my brother was really young, and we were also going on holiday, and my dad was actually working that holiday, so he couldn't come with us. And my dad used to work a lot when I was young anyway, so like it was a thing where like we were really upset. So to make us feel better, my mum bought my brother Ice Age and me The Last Unicorn on video.
Oh my
because
God.
obviously video was
Back
the
in the
thing
day.
back in the day. And I just remember receiving this like video, and it was so beautiful. Like, it's one thing I would say about this movie. It's so beautiful. Like the animation is just so colourful and bright and happy, and like it just became all I watched that holiday. And my brother would watch Ice Age, and I would watch The Last Unicorn. My brother would watch Ice Age, and it just carried on like that. And it was just like on repeat. And we were in this tiny caravan with my grandparents, and it was just so lovely.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I completely agree. I came to this movie quite late. I was an adult by the time I watched it. I think I watched it for the first time at university. I'd been told about it, and I'd been lent the book, which I'd read.
Yeah, I need to read that actually.
It's very good, obviously. And then I was going through a thing where I was like, I need to watch more animated movies because I love the genre. Not genre, I love the medium. And I got this on DVD and I watched it on repeat. Again, I would just have it. I downloaded it onto my tablet, and then I just would have it as I went off to sleep every night, and I would have it in the background when I was writing an essay, and I would just so I know the dialogue off by heart, and I've listened to it a lot more than I've watched it. So it was such a joy this time around to actually properly sit down and watch it, because it is beautiful.
It really is.
The colour schemes are gorgeous, and the landscapes are wonderful, and they take the time to pan across all these fields that they've designed, and the universe is just so beautifully constructed, and the characters are so interestingly animated, and then on top of that you've got the voice acting and the music that's just consistently
I found that I forgot about how lovely the credit was at the beginning. It's a proper span of the whole world. And I loved the characters as well. The witch and how witchy she is. She's like a proper old school witch.
She looks like she's been carved out of a tree. It's so imaginative. The main credits are most of there's soundscape of music, which is gorgeous, and then there's songs by the band America, and they're wonderful. And the credits roll over this opening title that is based on The Hunt of the Unicorn, which is a medieval tapestry. So we go into this medieval sort of world, and then we come back to this animated world, and it's just... my first thing is this film is beautifully animated with a gorgeous soundtrack. That is the first note that I've written. The dialogue is, sorry.
No, I was just about to say, I actually forgot about some of the songs. So, I forgot about the Now That I'm a Woman song. And when that came on, I was tearing up. I was oh my God, she's forgetting herself. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead, but it was so beautiful.
Yeah, all of the songs are great. I really like them. Some are better than others, I have to say. And Mia Farrow's singing voice is
questionable.
Fine. It's fine. But what stands out to me about this movie is how it's written. The dialogue is so poetic and romantic and dramatic. And I've got like a note here that's like, what is it? It's like there's an inspirational quote like every 5 minutes.
There literally
in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, what did I put as the thing? Like, oh yeah, like you have all the power you need if you just dare to look for it. Like, and there's like shit like that sort of Winnie the Pooh, Harry Potter-esque type, sort of like just believe in yourself. Like there's shit like that littered throughout this movie. You could pull quotes and like put them on Instagram every 5 minutes from this film.
Also, it's funny.
Yes.
Like it's so funny. Watching it back as an adult, I just forgot like how funny it is. Like as a child, you kind of like fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
But I realised like watching it as an adult, things just happen, and you're just like, oh, okay, they're doing this now. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny.
And it, like some of the lines, like when you first they go to this sort of campsite of outlaws, and one of them's like, not rat soup again for the second night running, and then one of them's like, she could have at least used a different rat this time. That's hilarious. As a kid, you'd have probably just... I mean, was there a gap between you watching this as a kid to watching it as an adult?
Huge, yeah. So I think the last time I watched it, I think I must have been about 10.
Wow.
I'm 22 now, so it's literally been about 12 years. And so watching it again, like, I was like, this is beautiful. How have I not watched this again? And just the cliches in it as well. Like the hero. There was this one quote I wrote down that just made me laugh so much. It was, he goes, it made me laugh so much. He goes, I'm a hero, and heroes know that things happen when they are meant to happen.
Yeah.
He's just such like a wannabe hero.
He's so funny.
Yeah.
He's so funny. All of the characters are so... You're right, they're like... They should be stereotypes, but they're not.
No.
Because of like whatever reason. So we've got this unicorn who's voiced by Mia Farrow, and it's fascinating because this unicorn's meant to be like immortal and ageless.
Yeah.
And nowadays, if you voiced her, I would put someone like Kate Blanchett, that sort of like ancient yet also incredibly young voice. And she's beautifully animated. Like she's a sexy little horse. Like she's pretty and like very well taken from the book's description and put onto film.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I'm the last unicorn apparently, because these like hunters have come into my wood and said how like there's no unicorns left in the world. That's weird.
Yeah, and another thing, sorry, I was just gonna say, like another thing I like is that like, because after I watched The Last Unicorn, I started watching the beginning of Little Nemo, and I realised that like I forgot how much all these old films, they just jump straight into it. It's like you're halfway into the story. They just jump straight in. There's no little build up. These people are on this horse and they're like, oh yeah, there's no more unicorns. We're in a wood. Yeah. And then he goes, why do you think it's spring all the time? Because there's a unicorn in this forest.
Yeah, literally.
It's just like, okay, this makes sense.
There we go. Because you forget, because it has such a short run time.
Yeah.
But they have to cram it all in. They just
go
get on with it. It's great. But everything that happens is so memorable.
Yeah.
So like they leave and this unicorn's like, that's weird. And then this butterfly turns up. And this butterfly is on screen for like 3 minutes. But I just remember him so much because his voice actor does such a great job.
Yeah.
The idea is that I think he's such a small, fluttery creature that his attention span is all over the place.
Yeah.
So he keeps singing these little songs and like making these little quotes, and she's trying to seriously be like, dude, are there any more unicorns left in the world?
what's happening?
And he's like, la 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 la. But then when it gets... this movie just makes me cry, every single thing that it does. Like out of nowhere, he's like singing these songs, and then suddenly he's like, listen, no, don't listen to me, listen. And I'm like, oh, there's something about that line that I'm just like, what do you mean don't listen to you, listen? Like, what am I listening for? And she's like, huh? What? And he's like, there were unicorns, but the Red Bull took them long ago. And she's like, what? And then he's like, la 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 la, off again, and
then he starts
off.
like flying away.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is a little insight to how weird I was as a child. But you know how he just sings like weird songs all the time? for some reason, in my head, the most memorable one was "See You Later, Alligator."
Yeah, see you later, alligator.
Yeah, so I'd go around as a child being like, "See you later, alligator," to everybody. And I just used to do that on a continuous basis.
I love that. I still have that when something you steal. For me, it's Chip from Beauty and the Beast when he went, "See, I told you." I used to say that all the time. I still do. Like, you just steal these things from these movies without even realizing. And he leaves in such a dramatic way. He like says that, and then he's like, "It's you and me, Ma, hand to hand to hand to hand to hand." And you're just like,
flies away, and you're like, "Who's the Red Bull?"
Fuck.
Yeah.
It's so good, but they're like every time, and they keep doing that. They'll have like, "Oh, it's a dumb kids film," and then they'll have lines like that, like, "No, listen, don't listen to me, listen." And it's like, oh my god, like, oh, it's so intense. I love it. Angela frickin' Lansbury plays Mummy Fortuna, who is this witch that we then meet next, just because the unicorn leaves her forest, and she's like, "Wow, I guess I'm gonna go find some unicorns." And then she comes across Mummy Fortuna, who has this carnival of like freaks and mysterious mythological creatures, but they're not. They're all just like bewitched.
Fake, yeah.
But it's Angela Lansbury, who is Mrs. Potts from Beauty and the Beast, but like. You would not think. You can tell it's Angela Lansbury.
Yeah.
But she's so scary in this.
She's terrifying in it. Like, she used to scare me when I'd watch
I'm not even surprised. She looks frightening. And she sounds frightening. And whenever they use a spell, because we all grew up with Harry Potter, I'm assuming that we're all used to these sort of Latin-based spells that sort of sound normal. But the spells in this are like... They sound scary. They sound like a different language, and they sound real.
And it's also big as well. Like there's proper like the screen changes colour. Like there's all sorts of weird stuff happening.
Of colour is magical in this, and again, like we first meet the unicorn on the side of the road, and she's like, I've got these two helpers. One's like a dumbass, and one's like this magician that I don't think is real, Schmendrick. And they'll both think she's a white mare. And she like pulls the magician closer, and she's like, "What do you see?" And you see things from the people's point of view, where the unicorn has no horn, and then you'll see things from people's point of view, and you can see that they know that she's a unicorn. And here's one, he's like, "It's a horse, just a white mare." But you can see from his point of view that he knows it's a unicorn, and you're just like, "This is so exciting!" Like everyone's lying, and like some people know what she is, and some people don't, and like those that do have such reactions to her, and I'm going to get onto it. I'm going to like mount up to that moment, because it is the moment of my life.
I love that bit.
But like first we have Schmendrick being like, so she gets captured and she's put in this sideshow, and she's got fake horns, so people see that she's a unicorn, which is so sad. Like you suddenly be like, God, like this is a world where unicorns existed and do exist, and like people have such a relationship with them and they don't even realize they do. And when Schmendrick comes to her in the night, he's like, "I know you. If I was blind, I would know what you are." Like
that's such a lovely line.
Everything's so like, romantic, and like romantic in that sort of poetic sense. Like just everything that is said is just so like dramatic and yet sincere, and it just makes this movie stand out from other kids' movies, I think. Definitely. Because it just has this feel of adulthood within it, where it like it's wise. It feels wise. Do you know what I mean?
That's the thing. I think that it's got a massive crossover. Like a child will watch it and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, it's about a unicorn! Like it's magical." But then an adult will watch it, and then all of a sudden you realise that like there's so many messages in it. So important. Like
so many.
His name
Schmendrick.
Yeah, he's just like, he thinks that he's like incapable of doing anything, and then his journey throughout the piece is so amazing,
so like, strong, and like you're with him the entire time, and other people are like supporting him or not supporting him, and like
it just shows that you can do what you can just do what you want to do if you have the faith in yourself.
Just dare to believe. It's so powerful. The underlying music is so emotive. Like when he's saying all of that, the music's going, and then it changes because we suddenly look at Selena, the harpy, that's in the like cage next door, and she's another real creature, and you know because the music's suddenly like bam, bam. She's terrifyingly animated, and she's voiced. She only has one line, but it sticks in my soul. So the unicorn does get released by Schmendrick, and they start freeing all the carnival animals. And as she approaches the harpy's cage, it's so dramatic. Like
she's like this terrifying big bird.
It's horrible. And she's like, free me, we are sisters, you and I. And you're like, and he's like, no, don't do it. And you're like, fucking hell.
And you're like, you know that it's gonna try and kill
my
her.
God, it's so scary. She has to fight with this harpy, and then like Mummy Fortuna like welcomes death.
Yeah, I was gonna.
laughing.
I put that in there. Like, I put that on my notes. I was like, it's like she wanted to die.
Yeah.
But like, she was also saving the unicorn, so it was like some weird, like twisted bit of that story. And that death, I forgot how like. That was brutal.
Oh, it's
like
you don't see any. It's
scary.
like Psycho. You don't see anything, but you do because you put it there. So the harpy like descends on Mummy Fortuna, who's like cackling maniacally, like, "Not on your own. You'll have never freed yourself on your own. I own you." And she like starts eating her, but you only see the back of the harpy, but like its feathers are moving.
You just see its
and
back,
it starts
like, moving,
pulsing red.
It
like
horrible.
glows red. And Schmendrick's like, oh God, that poor woman, like I didn't like her, but like no one deserved that death. And the unicorn's just like, she chose her death long ago.
It's so brutal.
Like, oh my God. And then she's like, don't run, never run from an immortal creature. It only it gets their attention. And you're like, words to live by. In case a dragon comes for me. And like all of these creatures are designed in such a magnificent way. They are clearly based on these like old fairy tale illustrations from like the medieval period, because they're not cartoonish. They're frightening and they're real. Even though they're mythological, they're real. And it's so good. And then we meet my favorite character and probably yours, Molly fucking Grew. Molly Grew is the like girlfriend, I guess, of like Captain Cully, who's this outlaw who they sort of get captured by for a little bit of the show. And
I really thought that bit was longer.
Same. I thought all of it was longer. And I thought it came at different places as well. I thought we were with Captain Cully before the carnival. Like little segments of episodic moments. Which is so interesting and exciting. Before it kind of dips, I'm gonna say. Like when we get there, as an adult who came to it, like it didn't keep my attention. But we're with Captain Cully, and like Schmendrick does this spell, and he conjures Robin Hood, and he makes all the outlaws go away. But before then, we meet Molly Grew, and she is so interesting as a female character in an animated movie, because she's like barefoot, peasanty, horrible scraggy brown hair, weird lumpy face, and like voiced by like she's clearly meant to be like 40. I guess, which is really lovely because you never get that. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that we'll talk about in a minute, but I sob uncontrollably every time she comes face to face with the unicorn.
Oh my gosh, that moment.
She's like, Schmendrick the magician, you may have duped all of my friends, but you haven't duped me. And then the unicorn comes out the hedges, and she just goes, how dare you? How dare you come to me now when I am this? And she's like, I'm here now. And she's like, why didn't you come to me when I was one of those young maidens you always come to? How dare you come to me now? And this unicorn's like just sobbing, so bewildered. She's sobbing, and Schmendrick's like, this is the last unicorn. And she says, it would be the last unicorn that comes to Molly Grew. And I lose it every time. There's something about the way it's written and the way it's acted, because even when I'm not watching the screen, I'll cry at that bit. I honestly sob uncontrollably every single time those lines are said. And like I did the first day I watched it, and I do every other time I watch it. There's just something about the loss of like like you don't even really know the mythology behind it, but you get that unicorns are meant to come to virgins, and like it makes their lives better. And now that she's old and living in the forest and like making rat soup,
so many things, and now she's finally
sees the unicorn. And this unicorn's just like, I'm sorry, and she's like, it's fine, but like this sucks. And it's so human, even though it's really not, because it's like mythological. I weep every time.
I think it's just such a lovely, lovely moment because it's kind of like, it's almost like that thing of like, it's teaching you it will happen at some point.
Yeah.
Your time will come at some point,
Just
even
not
when you
when
don't
you
expect it. Yeah.
And then she forgives the unicorn straight away. She's like,
Yeah.
I forgive, but she's still crying, and she's got this wonderful voice, and she's just so good. She's just such
she's
a good
so
actor.
motherly and
And it's so sad. It's so heartbreaking. Before that, Schmendrick was tied to a tree.
oh my god, okay, I need to talk about this tree moment because that tree, it just, like, I think that was probably as a child, that was one of my favourite parts of the film.
Really?
Even though it was like 10 seconds long,
Yeah,
it was like
yeah.
a really short moment. But the I love you, love, 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 love. Like, I used to do that to my cats. Like, yeah, I used to quote this movie a lot. But I used to pick up my cat and be like, I love you, love, 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 love. But this tree, right, is a normal tree, and then he starts trying to do magic to free himself from being trapped to this tree, and then it just turns into this, like, I mean, I described it as like an old woman with big boobs. Like, it was a really weird situation.
It's that sort of like.
It's really
like,
weird.
I can't. Joanna Lumley, but like ugly and weird, and
got a man voice.
Huge boobs that Schmendrick is like trapped in between. It's so like uncomfortable to watch. But even this fucking weird tree that's meant to have this like cool hair
like
made out of flowers,
as well.
like hugging this like. But even this fucking tree is like, I will remember the colour of your eyes when the rest of the world has forgotten your name. Just these fucking lines, man, that just like spurt out. You're like doing a dumb thing with an ugly tree, and you're like, what the fuck is happening? And then even this tree says one of the most romantic, poetic things you've ever heard in your life. And you're like, oh my god.
I think that is one thing about this film. Like, there were like huge, what the fuck is happening moments. But then a line would come out, and you'd be like, how did you do that to
Now
me?
I'm crying.
Now I'm sad. Like, I'm happy, and I'm like, what is going on?
I'm so moved. And then the tree becomes jealous of the unicorn, and the unicorn turns it back into a tree. And you're right, it's 10 seconds. But again, it's that the voice clips are so memorable. And you're right, it's that like blah 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 blah. It's like so satisfying to hear. It's like it's so comforting. This movie is so like it's like a hug that's also like inspirational. It's really weird. It's really bizarre.
That tree. I just said in my notes, the tree, bloody yes, with exclamation marks.
Amazing. It's a funny, and again, it lasts like 5 seconds, but it's so memorable because the animation style and the voice acting and everything around it is just so, it etches into your brain in a way that other movies don't, like especially modern movies.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
So then the three of them are on their way, and the plan is to get to King Haggard because he's the one that has the Red Bull, and to see if they can find the unicorns to save them.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a road trip, and up until this point we've had these like episodic things that have happened that are really memorable. Once we reach Haggard's kingdom, and it's such a shame because you've got King Haggard played expertly and loyally by Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
And then Prince Lear is his son, voiced by Jeff Bridges. And I think what it is, because what happens on the way, they get attacked by the Red Bull, and Schmendrick.
That's an example of one of those moments that I was on about where, like, as a child, you sort of fill in the gaps. But as an adult, I was just like, okay, the bull just like literally appears out of air.
Yeah.
Literally just appears out of air. And then, like, it's like Molly's screaming, like, do something, do something, do something. And then Schmendrick's like, I don't know what to do. And she goes, you have all the power you need if you dare to look for it, which is a beautiful thing to say. But then he does do the thing.
He does do the best thing in that situation. He turns her human.
Yeah.
So now we've got the last unicorn is a human.
And then Molly is just breaking down and saying, what have you done? What have you done? And I'm like, honey, you just told him to do it.
Literally, this time round as well, I was like, Molly, babe, like, don't fucking have a go. And Schmendrick's there, like, trying to fight his own corner. And he's like, I did what you asked. Because I am a bearer. I am a messenger. I can't control these powers. The magic chose the form, not I. And then, of course, you have another heartbreaking moment when Molly Grew's like, no. And this now girl is like, I can feel this body dying around me. What have you down to me, I'm a unicorn. And you're like weeping again.
Yeah.
I'm like, for God's sake, why have you done this to me? And this time round as well, I especially felt the journey that she does, where like all of a sudden I did feel, I was like, you've trapped this immortal, pure being in a human body.
Yeah. Into a mortal body. Like, oh, that was a really... I didn't realise how sad that moment was until watching it again. This is the thing, the animation is so incredible. Like, they really capture her realisation so beautifully.
Yeah.
And I only realised that this time around.
Yeah, it's so well done, the way she's like moving and like giving up, and then it's even more tragic to watch her, and it's such a shame because it means that my engagement in the story dips the whole time they're at King Haggard's castle, because the unicorn that was once powerful and brave and curious and immortal is now this human who's like very nice to like cosplay as and very pretty to look at. But you watch the tragedy of like King Haggard looks in her eyes and he's like, why can I not see myself in your eyes? Because he can see the forest and everything that she's seen. And then within 20 minutes, her eyes are just eyes.
Yeah.
And the thing where her horn used to be is now just skin. And like, it's so sad.
The thing that got me though with that whole bit is that like when she's approaching the castle, she's just like full on in a cape and no shoes and no one's questioning this. And then he looks into her eyes and sees all this forest. And then it's only 20 minutes later that he's all like, I know what you are. And it's like, how did that... How did you not know before?
The whole timeline when they're at the castle is weird. And she's there battling with the like, I know I'm here for a reason, Molly, but I can't remember what it is. And she's like, the unicorns, we're here for the unicorns and we're trying to keep it a secret from King Haggard, who we're all in employment of now. Meanwhile, Prince Lear is trying to like bang her, which is so annoying. And it's even more annoying that Molly's like, I'll help you. And then she starts scolding her for being like, why don't you like him?
And it's like, Molly, like literally half an hour ago you were crying over the fact that you're seeing a unicorn for the first time, and now you're saying, oh yeah, let's just ditch the unicorn thing and marry their prince.
Marry the prince, not a problem.
And he's off like just slaying dragons and slaying giants, trying to win her over.
And this thing, he's like, no matter what I do, I can't get her attention. I think I even wrote it. He was like, and I'm like, how about we leave the girl alone? And he's like, I don't know how to win her. And I'm like, how about we don't try and win her at all? And he's like, it's just not working. And I'm like, so leave her alone then.
I must say, that's the kind of annoying part I found about the film.
It really dips it.
Yeah, it went from like being a lovely film about this unicorn and it being the last unicorn on a quest, to then introducing a love story. Like, why was the love story necessary?
The love story is so unnecessary.
It's so
and it would be more... That I can't remember how it plays out in the book, but it feels like there's a depth to it, of course, because this unicorn is now trapped in a mortal body. She's learning what it is to love. She's learning what it is to let go of her past. She doesn't want to meet her destiny anymore. She wants to be comfortable in this relationship. But the relationship doesn't last long enough in the movie. We don't care that these two get together, especially as an adult. I'm watching it and I'm like, yo, remember the unicorns are in the sea and we need to save them somehow.
Yeah.
Why are we not doing that? Molly, why do you want these two people to hook up now?
Yeah, Molly,
like,
why are you just abandoning the quest?
What's going on here? And she as a character becomes utterly pathetic.
Yeah, she really
She
does.
becomes so boring and like wet. And it's such a shame.
Yeah.
My housemate joined for the last half of this movie and she was like, this unicorn's shitty. And I'm like, I know, she is now, but she wasn't.
She wasn't, like, she's literally lost all of her empowerment.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you trying to say because she got put in a theme in like a human body that's what it is?
That, like, she sucks
She's
now.
she's shitty now.
That's how we see human women. They suck.
Yeah, like, I
And
was
like,
just like, what is
you
this?
have to get with this guy. Like, how dare you not get with this guy?
Yeah.
And that's shitty. And it just goes on for a bit. And she sings this song, Now That I'm a Woman.
Yeah.
And it's difficult because it's meant to be her falling in love with Lear, but also forgetting the unicorn.
Yeah.
But the song is very warbly by Mia Farrow, so it doesn't have the power that I think it was meant to. Like, I can see what they were trying to convey, but they didn't quite get it, and it didn't last quite long enough. We don't really have a concept of how long they've been at this castle and how long they've been relaying their quest. So again, I'm just a bit like, we've all forgotten about the unicorns a bit quickly here.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those moments where, like, as a child it made sense, but as an adult, watching it back, I was just kind of like, okay, but like, in our timelines, you arrived 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, literally.
In your timelines, you've probably been there for months.
Could have been, yeah, even a year.
And also, can I just say, like, not to be mean, but like her singing voice is really annoying.
Oh,
like,
it's so awful.
It just didn't work for me.
But like not in tune.
No, just like not good.
It's like, do what people, maybe they didn't have the budget, but like do what everyone else was doing in the 80s and employ Mia Farrow for the voice, but employ someone else for the singing voice. Like, it's okay, we won't judge you, and yet they don't. They let her sing, and I guess they were trying to capture that sort of feebleness, but it's too feeble.
It just doesn't work for me.
And then Jeff Bridges sings his song, which is equally kind of boring, because we'd had some kind of bangers.
Yeah.
I even liked the song like Man's Road. I kind of like that, even though it's kind of forgettable. But Now That I'm a Woman is just awful, and his song as well, and they kind of duet it a bit, and that's when they fall in love. And then finally the plot comes back thanks to the Yar exposition cat.
That cat, I forgot that cat existed, and it came on, and I was like, wait, there's a cat with a peg leg and an eye patch that he's able to swap over. So he's just making it up that he's got this eye patch. He's speaking with a pirate accent and going yar, yar. And then when Molly's like stroking him and he's going yar, yar, that's good, yar.
I wrote it down as like her, do that.
I got her, that'd be nice. And then he swapped the eye patch over.
And it's so funny because he's introduced by like the cabin is shaking and Molly Green's like, holy shit, what the fuck? And he's like, yar, it's the Red Bull going out to hunt for the unicorn he lost, and don't pretend you don't know that. Because it's true, it's like, you know what's happening, Molly, this is for the audience, like, yar, some exposition for you all. And his little peg leg is so cute. And I've written unicorn. He says it like Unicorn. It's like a unicorn. Like, it's just so funny. I love this cat, but it doesn't make a lick of sense.
No,
and he like
just
kinda helps her. He's like, yar, to get to the Red Bull, we need to do this. And she's like, for the love of fuck, this is a kids movie, we've got an hour and a half, why can't you be more explicit? And tell me. And he's like, because I are what I are. I be what I be. I'm a cat. And cats don't tell anything straight or the truth. And then he like swatches his eye patch over and you're like, cool, great. And then Molly's like, I found what the cat was talking about within like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And the unicorn's just like there in the background. And then we have the bit with the skeleton, which is really cool.
Oh yeah. Wait, when's the bit when the king's like saying, I know what you are to the unicorn?
It happens like between the two songs. So King Haggard's there and he's like, yes, the sea, I like the sea. And he has this whole monologue where he's like, unicorns were the only thing that made me happy.
Yeah.
I know that you're the last unicorn.
And can I just say, like, the unicorns are just like living in the sea?
Yeah, I
just
don't
living in the sea.
logistically understand that at all. They're like, we see them be driven into the ocean by the Red Bull. And then they're just
in the sea, and then it keeps flashing to the sea, and he's looking at the sea and he's describing how he likes to look at them in the sea, but yet you don't see them in the sea.
Yeah, you don't see it. And to the film's credit, like, she turns around and she's like, I don't understand what you're looking at. And he's like, don't lie to me. And she's like, what the fuck? And then he's like, oh God, I can see myself in your eyes now. You're clearly like all human. And you're like, no.
Yeah, there were like a few lines of that the bit when he was saying like, I knew what you were before, where I was a bit like, your description is really weird. Like at one point he goes, the flash of your throat as you breathe gave it away. And it's like, what?
Gross. Yuck.
I had to write that down because I was just like, wait,
about that.
Did you just say that? But yeah, then
she gets whacked out. She's like, he's mad, and then has to like throw herself onto the like tower to like weep. And I'm like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, she becomes really wet. It's
to the point where she literally trips on a rock and has the audacity to turn to camera to literally say out loud, my ankle. And I'm like, stop.
I wrote that bit down as well. That annoyed me so much because she just trips and then she doesn't bloody move.
She doesn't get up again.
She just stays there.
She's just like, oh, my ankle. Leah, help me.
If you hurt your ankle, you can still move. Like, just move.
And it makes that whole segment really boring to watch as an adult, because you're just like, this sucks. I mean, you ruined all the characters. And then there's a wonderful moment. So my housemate doesn't know this movie very well. She's just like, oh, it's the one where they like fuck the horse, right? And I'm like, I mean, yes. Because Prince Lear, they beat this skeleton who's really cool. We'll talk about him in a minute. And they go through the clock and they're in this tunnel and they're all like, fuck, we need to fight the Red Bull. She needs to fight it as a unicorn. And she's like, I want to stay human. And you're like, oh my god, honey,
that annoyed
no.
me so much.
But it's tragic. Like I could see the tragedy of it. And Schmendrick's the only one like trying to get her. And Molly Gru's like, keep her as a fucking human. She's happy. You just don't care. And he's like, God, I wish I didn't care, but I do.
Yeah.
I have to turn her back into a unicorn. And it's all very dramatic and tragic and like scary and sad. And then Prince Lear is like, I love whom I love. And he's like, I have to turn her back into a unicorn. And he's like, I love whom I love. And you're like, you know you can't fuck a horse, right? Like,
You're talking about loving a horse.
You can't do that, man. Jeff, I'm really sorry. it's such a funny line, because he literally
said it like that.
shuts Schmendrick up where he's like, I love whom I love. And he's like, okay. And then he turns her back into a unicorn and he's like, huh. All right. Like, for fuck's sake, no. Don't fuck the horse.
Oh my god.
It's so funny.
Oh my god.
So the skeleton, they have to answer his riddle, and he doesn't tell them where to go. And he's really interestingly animated, and he's really fun. And they trick him with this like fake wine, and he pretends to remember what it's like to drink it, and then he tells them where to go. And then this is my favorite line from the whole thing. It's so stupid, but this is what I quote the most. When they start running towards the clock, he can suddenly see that the Lady Amalthea is actually a unicorn, and it like flashes for him, and his skull like changes shape into like a villainous skull, and his eyes start glowing red, and he's like, oh no, not you, not that one, Haggard, a unicorn.
Yeah, and he's just like screaming unicorn.
And that is what I quote all the time. I'm like, unicorn. I love it. It's so dramatic, and they're like running to this clock, and I'm just like, this fucking movie is picked up again. Like, and then immediately she turns back into a unicorn, so you're like, fuck yeah, we just had to deal with that 15 minutes of like 2 songs and like rubbish character development.
Yeah, it's so true actually. It's like a switch in the film. The minute he starts like screaming unicorn, you're like, and we're back.
On board
We're
again.
back.
Yeah. Let's go. I love whom I love. Okay.
Okay, Annie, it's a horse.
And then it's fucking great. Again, like, as an adult, it's really interesting watching this, because she turns back into a unicorn and she starts fighting the Red Bull, and she starts getting pushed into the ocean, and she's like, God. And again, Molly's like, Schmendrick, do something. And it's like, Molly, how about you do something?
Yeah.
And Schmendrick's like, I can't do anything. This is what heroes are for. And Lear's like, you're right. This is what heroes are for.
I love that bit.
Instantly dies.
He just the bit right, it just cracked me up, because he's like, yeah, you're right, this is what heroes are for, and then he just runs into this bull, and I'm like, what were you trying to achieve?
He like Naruto runs towards the Red Bull, who immediately just yeets him across the beach, and he's dead
like,
on the ground.
What are you trying to achieve?
And
like,
you're
what
like,
is this?
Wow, good job, Lear. So then the unicorn has to do everything herself, I guess, and she like fights back, and like all the unicorns from the ocean in a beautiful gift set.
I love that
It's
bit.
like the waves, and the like white froth of the waves are the unicorns, and like they're like cascading over the Red Bull, and it's just magnificent
that
piece of
whole
animation.
end sequence actually, from the
Beautiful.
unicorns coming out of the sea, destroying the Red Bull, going over the castle, and then the castle slowly
like
coming
crumbling down into the sea.
I was like, oh my gosh, that is beautiful.
It's breathtaking, and the music, when like the music's like dun dun dun, it's like
dramatic.
cascading over, and then as they hit the beach and start running, it's like dun dun.
I love
dun,
it.
And the like castle's crumbling into the sea, and Haggard's like, no, and he like falls to his death. It's so good.
It's just so
good.
good.
And then what's so lovely is that they're like weeping over Lear's dead body, and the unicorn comes back, and Molly makes a point of saying, oh, you came back, because there was no expectation for her to. As an audience, you're like, of course she'll stay, she's the fucking main character, and she needs to say goodbye to her friends. But no, she's a unicorn again now.
Yeah, she doesn't have
has
to,
no
like,
reason to do anything ever again.
Like, watching it as an adult, you're like, oh, okay, actually, in my head right now, I'm thinking she might not even know who they are, because that was what the possibility was, her turning back again. She might not remember who they are. Her memories.
But as Schmendrick says, like, she's the only unicorn now that knows regret and remembers.
Oh, that's it, yeah.
It's so sad. So she brings Leah back to life, even though he doesn't deserve it.
No, and he doesn't. He thinks it's all a dream.
Yeah. And then he looks up and sees the unicorn, and he's like, huh, that's weird. And then she's like, I remember you. And then she goes, and you're like, fair enough, that's really sad. And they go off. It's really funny. It's like, they're like, goodbye, Leah. And he's like, I'm going to go off and try and make something of myself. And they're like, cool, bye. And then he's like, Molly, come with me, for luck, for laughs, for the unknown, come with me. And she goes, all right. It's like one word answer. And they get on the horse together and they ride off. And then they're like snoozing under a tree, and the unicorn comes back to say goodbye. And it's so, again, she doesn't have to. And she's like, I remember everything. I know of all the unicorns, I know regret, and I know sadness, and I know love.
Mortality.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm so sorry to have done this to you. And she's like, no, unicorns are back in the world again, and we couldn't have done that with. And you're just like, oh.
Oh, it's so true.
And then Molly wakes up just in time to be like, bye. And she's like, I'm alive. It's so good. I'm like crying again. And then like the end credits is her like making the journey back to the forest.
It's so lovely.
But with everything that's been said, and like, I think that's the end of my notes, because I'm just weeping from this point out.
I actually felt so sorry for the prince though, because like he goes, like, I wrote down this, he goes, I will miss you. I've never had any friends before.
Aww.
And I just sort of clocked in my head, hang on, he's lost his dad, he's lost the love of his life, and he's lost his only friend, and he's just galloping off like, oh, it's like, fine.
Oh, well.
And I never picked that up as a child, but I was like, hang on, this guy's literally got nothing.
Yeah. And it's sad as well, you learn his origin story from Haggard, where she's like, your son's back, and he's like, he's not my son, and you're like, wow, ouch. Yeah. And he's like, no, genuinely, he's not my son. I like stole him from a doorstep because I thought it would make me happy. And you're like, wait, what?
It's just
Did
so
you tell
deep.
him that?
Yeah, it's so deep.
And he's like, but it didn't. The only thing that made me happy is unicorns. And Haggard's such an interesting character, and Christopher Lee is such perfect casting for him. He just lives in this horribly run-down castle, and the only thing that makes him happy is looking out onto the sea where he's kept all these unicorns. And it's just a sad existence. And poor Lear is just like, Dad, do you love me? And he's like, no. He's like, oh, okay, I love this woman. She's technically a unicorn. Oh, well, no, like, she's back being a horse now. And he's like, fuck. And then he dies at the first time of trying to genuinely do something good. Like, he doesn't even achieve anything.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't even, like, slightly give her a bit of time to do something, or, like, he just dies. I don't know what that's saying about heroes or humans, but...
Yeah, literally. I don't know.
It's sad. But it's beautiful. And then she goes back to her forest, and the credits roll. And it's such a shame that there's that 10-minute of what essentially the plot is of them at Haggard's Castle.
Yeah.
It's just so, like, uninteresting. And I found myself getting distracted, not watching it properly, so I was like, ugh.
I did. I had to go back a few times because I had realised that I zoned out.
Yeah.
And I was, like, on my phone or something, and I was like, no, I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah. I did the same. And it's such a shame because the carnival keeps you so engaged, and then Captain Cully keeps you so engaged, and everything's been so memorable and romantic and dramatic, and then we get to this castle and the plot, everything sort of stops.
I feel like it was kind of like this is going to be for children, little girls love, fairy tales.
Yeah.
But they also love the love story of the prince and the princess. And I feel like they were kind of building up to this massive moment, but it wasn't a massive moment. It was unnecessary, and I feel like it didn't need to be there. I feel like if they'd have just arrived at this castle and then she got turned into a woman, then it continued on.
Yeah, and we dealt with trying to find the Red Bull and trying to find the riddles. If it was more riddles and less love story, and I don't mind if Lear falls in love with her because he's not seen another human being his entire 23 years of existence. But for her to fall back in love with him, they needed more time to flesh that out to really push forward the tragedy of the unrequited or like the love story has an element of tragedy and bittersweetness to it, but it's not played long enough here for us to really grasp that, so it just feels like a waste of time.
Definitely, because it literally, like, she was going, no, I can't love him, to the song, and then over the course of the song,
suddenly she
starts
loves him,
falling in love, and then they have this kiss at the end of the song, and you're like, oh,
and
okay.
that's when then she's like, I don't want to be a unicorn anymore, I don't want to do my destiny, I just want to be a dumb woman and like love him forever. And you're like, oh god, you're like wasting all of your potential, and like that's fine, like I get it, but we don't care enough about this relationship to want you to want this relationship.
You haven't given us enough of this relationship for us to care.
And you're pathetic as a character, as a woman, that I'm just like, turn her back into a horse.
It annoys me actually, the way that she's just like, because she's absolutely beautiful as a woman, but she is like the thinnest woman, she's got the biggest hair, the most beautiful dainty face, but yet she's like so pathetic, and I'm like, what are you trying to portray here?
Yeah, what have you lost? Like, by being turned into a human, you've lost an essence of you.
Yeah.
You've lost how mature and wise you were. Like, she seemed ageless when she was a unicorn.
Yeah.
You could see that she'd been around for hundreds of years, and yet also none at all. Whereas when she became a human, she's suddenly like 16.
Yeah.
And she is like 16, and you're like, why are you not... I'd be interested to reread the book, and Peter S. Beagle, who wrote the book, has written a screenplay, and there's been talks for years of a live action adaptation, which if they could just hold off for another 12 years so I could play Molly Grew, that would be great.
Amazing.
And Kate Blanchett has to play the unicorn, because like no one else has that sort of like wise, beyond their years, yet still very young thing, that sort of elven-ness about them. And they were going to get Angela Lansbury and Christopher Lee to reprise their roles in the live action, which would have been perfect. But obviously, like, one of them's dead now, and one of them still could. But whether she would or not is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But usually I'm very against turning animated movies into live action. But if the original author has written the screenplay, and I'm in it...
Definitely.
But do you know what I mean? I feel like this would actually work if you kept what was good and then fleshed out what was bad, so it became good.
Definitely. I'd be interested to see how they would like make it as magical and as colourful, because I think that was the massive thing. The animation was so colourful,
it was gorgeous.
But I guess now with like the technology and stuff, it would be easily done.
I would not want them to rely solely on CGI.
No.
I would want mostly practical effects. I would want them to they would have to shoot it in like New Zealand.
I was going to say New Zealand,
And do like, I love Legend, which is an 80s live action fantasy, and what they did was they just went to the German countryside and then just like covered it in glitter.
Oh my god.
And it looks cheesy, but I think it looks fantastical, because it's like, it's the like foresty countryside, but it's like covered in glitter, so it's got this magical element to it.
Oh, that's cool.
And if they did something like that's eco-friendly, I think you could go to European forests and shoot this, and
definitely.
I mean, it could probably make an excellent stage show, especially if you did the unicorn in that warhorsey way. Because what sucks is that if your main character is a horse, you can't put a real horse in there.
No.
Maybe you could, because she's talking, but a puppet would be a bit weird. But CGI would also be weird. Maybe they'd do that Babe thing where they got a live action horse and then like CGI'd its mouth so it looked like it was talking.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be the best way to do it.
Yeah, they could do it like that.
And like slightly enhance the horse so it looks a bit more sexy unicorny.
Yeah.
Because she's meant to have like slim ankles and like purple eyes.
She's meant to be like just like so graceful and beautiful and like exactly. Like they're really like slender.
CGI'd a real horse. I think that's the best way to do it. Get her voiced by Kate Blanchett and like Alan Arkin voices Schwendrick, who I know as the granddad from Little Miss Sunshine and nothing else.
I didn't know what else he'd been in actually.
No, but he's like a notable actor.
Yeah.
The voice cast is exceptional. And if you were going to translate it over to live action, you would have to get an equally exceptional cast.
Yeah, I agree.
To make it work. And as long as the original author was on board and you didn't fuck it up, maybe I'll let it happen, which usually I don't. You're welcome. yeah, I've run out of notes. Because we've got to the
Yes.
end of the movie, but I mean, I was so excited when you suggested it because I didn't think anyone else had seen it, especially as it's 1983?
Yeah,
94, yeah. So I was like, no one's, I mean, it's even weird that I've seen this as a child of 91. So anyone younger than me surely wouldn't have seen it because they wouldn't have had the opportunity, and it's like never on TV. So when you were like, I wonder if this movie called The Last Unicorn, I was like, oh yeah! Yes. So it's been really good, and I'm glad you agree because because when you were a kid, did you get bored in that middle segment?
Yeah, I do remember getting a bit bored. I think because it's because I think I kept engaged because she was so beautiful and stuff. As a child, you're like, oh my gosh, she's a princess. Like, I want to be a princess.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think the first few times I watched that, I definitely had that. She's just so beautifully animated and beautifully voiced that you're just like enraptured because you're just like pretty dresses, pretty hair, doing pretty things.
But I do remember that middle bit, like, seemed so long when I was young, and I think a few times it stopped me watching it because, like, I was just like, no, it's a really long bit.
Yeah, there's that bit in the middle that's boring.
But,
it really... It's probably why this movie hasn't reached that status that others have because of that 10 minutes. It's
crazy.
Sucks.
Like, I don't know anyone else who's seen it, and I think that's probably why. Because, like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I mean, I know it's an older movie,
and then been like, no, or like turned off halfway through. And it's such a shame because the rest of it is so good.
Yeah.
And that's why I would have it on in the background a lot because I would like watch the carnival and I would watch Cully, and then I would like do something else, and then I would come back for the finale. And it sucks that it's the third act and it's the climax because it's like the important bit in theory, but it's the most boring bit.
It really
and it's
is.
because the animation sort of halts. We're stuck in this boring, drab castle.
I think that's the thing. It goes from being like so like colourful to then just being grey. Like even the king's skin is grey. And you're just like everything seems so dark and dull and drab and cold.
Yeah.
It's like, where's the colour? Where's the light?
And she's forgetting everything.
Yeah.
And the other two are like forgetting everything, and you just sort of like, wait, what?
Why is everyone forgetting why they're there?
What the fuck's going on?
And even the sea is dark.
Yeah.
Like, when is it ever? There's no sun. Where's the sun?
No sun around that point. And it's
clouds.
a lot of like random flashes and montages of like him going and slaying a dragon, and you're like, I don't care. Like,
that was really random, that bit. I was like, what do you think you're gonna get by like killing a dragon for her?
And then
there you go.
Tries to give her his head.
It's so
And
weird.
I think I wrote down, I was like, yeah, dude, like, fucking give me the head of an endangered animal any day and I'll fuck you. Like, no, I would also give you a... Like, he's like, she gave me a look and I felt like I was sorry that I killed the thing. Imagine that, sorry for killing a dragon. And you're like, you sliced the head off an endangered exotic creature and then tried to give it to her. Like, I'd also be like, get that the fuck away from me. Like, ew, I don't want that. Like, no, go away.
Oh gosh.
And yet she still falls in love with him because the 80s.
Yeah.
But yeah, I genuinely still love it though, and I watch it over and over again because it's just so beautiful. Like, and do check out the soundtrack. Like, there's only like 5 songs on there, and 3 of them suck. But like, the main title is up there with like the main title of the Neverending Story as like an 80s banger. And the opening credits is just so beautifully done over that tapestry. So yeah, thank you so much for picking the movie. Do you have anything you want to plug? Anywhere we can find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Mon Young with double G, and on Twitter the same actually.
Nice.
Yes.
Amazing. You can find Why This Film on Twitter at Why This Film. We're on Instagram at Why This Film. We're on Facebook at Why This Film Podcast, and you can always email into us at whythisfilmpodcast@gmail.com. If you watched this movie when you were younger, if you didn't watch this movie when you were younger, if you're tempted to watch it but put off by the 10 minutes, don't power through. It's really great. I'm Emily Slade, and we'll see you next time on Why This Film. Bye!
We watch
watched the film and we talked about it, but now it's time to say goodbye. We'll be back again with another movie that makes you wanna ask why.